Have you ever noticed how certain people simply refuse to leave your mind? You may be going about your day focused on work or something completely unrelated, and suddenly their face appears in your thoughts again. It happens while driving, before falling asleep, or even in quiet moments when your mind should be at rest. And after a while, the question naturally arises: why does this keep happening? Most people interpret this experience through simple explanations. They assume it's just attraction, nostalgia, or perhaps unfinished emotional business. But according to the depth psychology of Carl Jung, the mind rarely repeats something without a deeper reason. When a thought returns again and again, it is often because the unconscious mind is trying to bring something important to our awareness. Jung believed that much of our psychological life unfolds beneath the surface of conscious thought. The unconscious mind stores emotions, memories, desires, and symbolic meanings that we may not fully understand yet. And sometimes, instead of communicating through clear logic, the unconscious sends signals in the form of recurring images, dreams, or persistent thoughts about specific people. This does not necessarily mean the other person is thinking about you in the same moment, nor does it always mean that you are meant to be together in some romantic destiny. What it often means is something more complex and more fascinating. The presence of that person in your thoughts may represent a psychological symbol, a reflection of something within your own inner world that is asking to be understood. And the more frequently this person appears in your mind, the more likely it is that your psyche is trying to reveal something that has not yet been fully recognized. When someone keeps appearing in your thoughts again and again, it may feel as if the connection exists entirely because of them. But according to Carl Jung,
what we experience in others is often deeply connected to something within ourselves. Jung believed that the people who occupy our minds frequently act as psychological mirrors, reflecting hidden aspects of our own psyche that we may not yet fully understand. In Jungian psychology, this phenomenon is closely related to the idea of projection. The mind has a natural tendency to project unconscious emotions, desires, and inner conflicts onto other people. When this happens, the person we keep thinking about becomes more than just themselves. They become a symbolic carrier of something our inner world is trying to process. It might be admiration, unresolved feelings, curiosity, or even parts of our own personality that we have not yet integrated into our conscious identity. This is why certain individuals affect us more deeply than others. You may meet hundreds of people throughout your life, yet only a few remain vividly present in your thoughts long after the interaction ends. Jung would suggest that this is rarely random. Instead, those individuals often touch something psychologically significant within us, something that resonates with our deeper emotional structure. Sometimes the person represents qualities we secretly wish to develop. Other times, they reflect parts of ourselves we struggle to accept. In either case, the repeated presence of that person in your mind may not be about them alone. It may be your psyche inviting you to look inward, to understand what exactly within you is being activated by their presence. And once you begin to see these recurring thoughts, not simply as memories, but as messages from your unconscious, the experience starts to feel less confusing and far more meaningful. Sometimes, thinking constantly about someone feels different from ordinary memories or attraction. It can feel almost as if something inside you keeps returning to that person without effort, as if your mind is being gently pulled back to the same image again and again. In the language of depth psychology, Carl Jung believed that moments like these can reveal subtle interactions between two psychological worlds. Jung proposed that beneath our individual personalities lies something deeper that connects all human beings, what he called the collective unconscious. This is a shared psychological layer where universal patterns, symbols, and emotional structures exist beyond individual experience. When two people meet and their inner worlds resonate in certain ways, their psyches can create a powerful symbolic connection that continues working even after the interaction ends. This does not mean there is a mystical telepathic signal constantly passing between two minds. Instead, it suggests that some encounters activate deep archetypal patterns within us. The other person may unconsciously embody an image that exists within your own psyche, such as the archetype of the ideal partner, the guide, or the mysterious other that invites personal transformation. Once that inner image is activated, your mind naturally returns to it, trying to understand the meaning behind the experience. This is why certain people appear in dreams, thoughts, or moments of reflection long after you last spoke to them. The mind is not simply remembering them. It is engaging with the symbolic role they play within your psychological landscape. The person becomes a kind of bridge between your conscious awareness and deeper unconscious forces that are shaping your emotional development. In this sense, constantly thinking about someone may not only be about them as an individual. It may be about the deeper psychological movement that their presence awakened within you. A movement that your mind continues exploring until its meaning becomes clear. At a certain point, constantly thinking about someone stops feeling like a simple memory and starts feeling like a question your mind is trying to answer. Why this person? Why now? And why does the thought keep returning even when you try to focus on other things? According to Carl Jung, moments like these often signal that the psyche is attempting to reveal something about your own inner development. Jung believed that many of the people who strongly affect us activate what he called archetypal images within the psyche. These archetypes are deep psychological patterns that shape how we experience relationships, attraction, admiration, and even conflict. When someone enters our life and activates one of these patterns, the mind begins to reflect on the encounter repeatedly, trying to understand the meaning behind the emotional response it triggered. Sometimes the person represents qualities we are drawn to but have not yet embraced in ourselves. Other times they awaken unresolved emotional material that has been waiting for attention. In either case, the mind returns to the image of that person not because it is obsessed with them, but because it is attempting to process the psychological movement they initiated inside you. This is why the experience can feel strangely personal, even if the relationship itself was brief or distant. The person may have simply acted as a catalyst. Their presence touched something important in your psychological structure, something connected to your growth, your identity, or your deeper emotional needs. And until the mind understands what that meaning is, the thought may continue to return again and again. From Jung's perspective, the real question is not only why you are thinking about that person. The deeper question is what part of yourself is asking to be discovered through that experience. Because sometimes the person we cannot stop thinking about is not only someone from our external world. They are also a doorway into understanding something about who we are becoming. In the end, the most important insight offered by Carl Jung is that the mind rarely fixates on someone without a deeper psychological purpose.
When a person repeatedly appears in your thoughts, it is often less about them as an individual and more about the transformation taking place within your own psyche. Jung believed that certain encounters activate powerful internal processes related to growth, identity, and emotional integration. Sometimes another person becomes the symbol through which the psyche tries to understand something essential about itself. They may represent qualities you admire, aspects of yourself you have not yet fully accepted, or emotional paths your mind is beginning to explore. In this sense, the persistent thought is not simply a memory. It is part of an inner dialogue unfolding beneath your conscious awareness. This is why these thoughts can feel strangely meaningful, almost as if they carry a quiet message that has not yet been fully understood. The mind returns to the image of that person because something about the encounter awakened a psychological movement that is still unfolding. Your thoughts circle back not because you are trapped in obsession, but because your psyche is working through something that matters to your development as a person. Jung often emphasized that personal growth does not occur only through logical reflection. It also emerges through symbols, emotions, and the subtle ways the unconscious mind communicates with us. The people who remain present in our thoughts can sometimes act as symbols within this process, helping us become more aware of the deeper layers of our own identity. So the real question may not simply be why you keep thinking about someone.
The deeper question is what your mind might be trying to reveal through that experience. Because sometimes the person who occupies your thoughts is not just part of your past or your imagination. They are part of the psychological path leading you toward a deeper understanding of yourself.